I wanted to talk a little bit about dating and specifically why the approaches people are using to find partners are tending to produce dissatisfying connections and relationships and dates that go absolutely nowhere and such the like. And I'm going to explain this first with an illustration of our dear brother Jack, our good friend here. He's a fairly handsome chap, quite normal by all respects, and most women would find him vaguely attractive, I suppose. And he's single, and he thinks, I better find a girlfriend, a partner. And what I would actually really like is some kind of passionate romance, ideally. And so, quite reasonably, Jack thinks. He thinks about what the perfect partner would be. He has all sorts of ideas and he makes a nice long list. Well, she better be vegan because I'm vegan and it would be ideal. And hopefully she likes the same type of music as I do. And oh yes, it's important that she shares the same political views as I do, because it would be most unpleasant to be someone who has values very different to myself. Maybe she shares some of the same hobbies as I do. She likes skiing and snowboarding and mountain climbing, and perhaps even the same taste in music. She likes classical flamenco guitar music, and perhaps shares some of the same academic interests, history, let's say. Well, for a start, our dear friend Jack has made a list that's rather specific. It's quite unlikely that he's going to meet this flamenco guitar, history-loving, skiing mountain climber who enjoys yoga and is vegan. But actually, with the wonders of online dating and fantastic dating websites like OkCupid, he can quite easily narrow it down and find someone who is a perfect match, it would seem, and crucially ticks all of the boxes that he thought would lead to a perfect relationship. So he's based his approach on thinking, right? That seems reasonable. It's reasonable. And therein lies the problem, actually. He's basing this approach on reason, on cognition, on thinking. And as luck has it, he actually finds a woman online who ticks all of his boxes. And even more lucky, he messages her, and believe it or not, she actually messages him back. Wow. They arrange a date, and she seems very enthusiastic. Funnily enough, she also has a list of boxes that she wants ticking. She's thought of who the perfect man is, and lo and behold, he ticks all of the boxes as well. Wow, this is fantastic. And they arrange to go on a date, and they go out for a meal, because the lockdown has ended and they can do that. So he goes out for this date, and as they talk, it's all very civilized and pleasant and harmonious, and the more they talk, the more they realize they agree about politics and they have similar goals in life. Were they looking to instrumentalize one another towards goals, it might well be a good match. Perhaps they both want to get married and have children and could be useful to one another. And they've ticked all of these boxes. But something is missing. There's no chemistry. There's no spark. There's no je ne sais quoi. There's no romance to it. There's no fire. And at the end of the date, they both think that it would be reasonable to kiss one another. And so they kiss one another, because haven't they found the perfect match who ticks all of the boxes? But when they kiss, it doesn't feel right. It feels strangely forced or artificial, like an act that is being engaged in towards a certain end. Then they part ways, agreeing to go on another date, which seems like a reasonable thing to do, because they tick all of one another's boxes and, on paper, according to their thinking, are an ideal match. And they want the same things, so that they can use one another in one another's life plans. So, how fantastic. Perhaps best not to think about that strangely empty kiss. Jack walks home, and he is, though, slightly bothered by the missing je ne sais quoi. He passes a nightclub, and as he passes it, he hears some music, and he thinks, fuck yeah, that's some good music. You know what? I'm feeling spontaneous, so I'm going to go inside and have a dance. After all, I do love to dance. And so Jack goes inside to the nightclub, and he starts dancing. He dances wholeheartedly. The music really presses his buttons and makes him move. And unlike the other people in the nightclub, Jack knows what dancing really is. He's not just doing what he thinks dancing is. Unlike dating, Jack understands dancing. Yes, so he dances. He dances for a good hour, really getting into the music. And because he dances naturally and spontaneously, he gets some funny looks. But nonetheless, it's fun. He's really in the moment. And suddenly he turns around and he finds, lo and behold, a woman smiling at him who seems to really like what she sees. And he mysteriously really likes what he sees too, even though, in a way, she isn't as attractive as the girl he just went on a date with. Certainly not in conventional terms. She's not even the type of woman that he thought he would be attracted to, but he is. He really feels that animal magnetism, and so does she. They are drawn to one another, and they feel lust for one another. Real lust, real passion, actually. And they come together, if you see what I mean closely. From the outside, it looks like two animals locked in some strange primal ritual. It's almost base to behold. In fact, those who do see it feel a little bit of jealousy and resentment that these two have a connection somehow so natural that they can only dream of. They kiss, and when they kiss, this kiss isn't empty. They feel passion. They feel fire and chemistry and lust take them over. Actually, they have not been doing very much at all. They have both been puppets for nature. Nature is making good use of these puppets to fulfill its will, to make the puppets dance for itself. There wasn't much thinking going on. He doesn't know anything about her, and she doesn't know anything about him. He may not like yoga, she may not like mountain climbing or tango or flamenco music or whatever it is. She might not share his interest in history, reading books about history. They actually are not thinking about goals anymore. They're not looking for someone to use, actually. They're not thinking, I need a wife and husband and someone to use as a social status object to impress my parents and then reproduce with so that I can finally be satisfied and happy like I have never been and other people seem to be. So they're not really thinking. They're not using one another, at least not yet, and not in that wrong way, in that artificial way. And lo and behold, they go home with one another and they have an amazing connection, let's say. And maybe that connection, because it's so enjoyable, is something that they will want to repeat. And they repeat it. They arrange to meet again and see if they still feel that animal magnetism. And lo and behold, they do. And because they enjoy an experience of one another and they enjoy this natural connection, alas, a relationship just naturally kind of forms. An attachment naturally forms between them, even though it started off with a seemingly non-committal connection that was not based on instrumentalization and not based on thinking. The difference between these two encounters that Jack has is striking. Perhaps you can relate. I hope that you listening have felt at least, or will feel at least once in your life, that natural animal connection with another human being. But it's not something that you can control. It's something that controls you. It's not something you can steer. It is the means by which nature steers you. And all of your thinking about how to find the perfect person and what their qualities are is completely meaningless. It's completely redundant. That encounter has a seal of approval given to it by nature. If you're going to be a bit Spinozan about it, and if you understand what that word, that filthy, corrupted word, God, really ought to point to, you would see that them coming together on a dance floor was the work of God, was the work of nature, not the work of artifice, of constructs of the minds, of silly ideas that we happen to have because of the culture that we are born into. Dance plays an essential role in the latter encounter. Were his first date to be on that dance floor, they may not have ever spoken to one another. No words, in fact, were needed, no speech required, because it is a non-cognitive process, the human mating ritual. We look at tribes around the world, and you could find the most isolated, long-lost tribe in the deepest, darkest jungle, and they will dance. Most human cultures, all human cultures, have some form of dance, and I suppose it's particularly important to pay attention to those cultures that reflect human life before the agricultural revolution, whereby we started to make this zoo, this urbanized artificial society, this machine that so alienates us from our humanity. But to be in touch with one's humanity must mean to be in touch with one's capacity to enjoy dance and to submit and have faith in the natural human mating ritual that becomes manifest through dance. I do not mean to reduce dance only to mating, not that that's a reduction, it's an honor, and it makes good sense that dance is the mating ritual, as I will explain. But dance has other functions, unifying the tribe. Many tribal dances involve men dancing together. It creates a kind of unity and togetherness. It's a friendly way of competing as well with one another, of displaying characteristics. And this is the real thing to understand about dance, is that if you were God and designing a species and you wanted to think of a way in which human beings could show off the best of what they got, dancing is actually an incredibly logical solution to that. When a person dances, they're not only showing off physical characteristics, their muscles, their body, their shape, they're also displaying certain psychological characteristics, their reaction times, their confidence, their ability to express emotions. They're actually displaying, if they dance well, if they dance gracefully, an interesting concept to think about, they're displaying how in touch they are with reality, with the here and now reality of what's going on around them, the sounds that they hear, and their capacity to naturally respond to that sound instantly. They're displaying their capacity to enter certain flow states when they dance. And so a number of psychological characteristics are communicated through dance. Indeed, emotional good health and mental well-being are partly communicated through the style in which a person naturally dances. And when I talk about good dancing, I suppose I'm talking about the dancing that actually reflects those things through engaging in the present moment of music and naturally responding to it. You're expressing something of yourself and your emotions when you dance. What I'm not talking about is learning the foxtrot or going to a street dance class and being taught how to dance. The only teacher you need when it comes to learning to dance is LSD, in my opinion. LSD will teach you everything you need to know about how to naturally dance, partly because it breaks down all of those things that stopped you dancing. When you were a child, I bet you danced, even if you don't dance now. And I bet when you danced as a child, you weren't doing the foxtrot or the tango. You were just going nuts. And actually, real dancing is a bit more like that somehow. It's more a free expression, I think, when you dance properly. Dare I use that word? I hate telling people what to do, and what's right and wrong. It's not my place. But yeah, I think people miss a trick when it comes to dating. And I think people, if they're not dancing, are kind of broken human beings, if I may be frank. I think dancing is a natural human behavior, and it serves a pivotal role in natural approaches to finding a mate, to finding a partner. And that if you follow that approach, the emotional experience you have will be one that is rich with chemistry and passion and fire and spark, and it will be real, it will feel authentic. It will not be about using another person as a part of a life plan, which seems to be what so much of dating has become these days. So, rant over. Stop thinking about the perfect mate, the perfect partner that you can use in your life plan, and get out there and enjoy a good dance and see who finds you in the process, who you naturally gravitate towards. And once you're done enjoying that wonderful connection, make a comment in the box below to say how wonderful my advice has been for your life. Thank you for listening and have a nice day.